Okay, so now we're live. And I'm bringing Steph.
Okay, so now we're live.
Oh shit, hold on.
Well, that just sums up the day, doesn't it?
I know.
Okay, so now we're live. Hold on.
So I'm leaving the meeting, Mark. And I'm making you
Well, that
the,
just sums up the day, doesn't it? Okay. Matt, it says you're the host now, just FYI.
Guess I better not leave the meeting, huh?
Hang tight.
okay, I think we're better now. Good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
By the way, Matt is the host.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna turn the recording back on.
Michelle, do you want me to give up the host, make you the host back? Because
Do
if
you
we
mind?
have public comment, yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, should
Thank
be good. And you've got Mark and the mayor as co-host. If you want to put me back, that's fine. But if not, I think we're covered.
Okay, we're good then.
All right.
Stephanie, I'm gonna make you a co-host so that you can see if you can find the share screen.
I see share screen.
Okay. And all you'll need to do when it's time is do share screen. You'll select the window with your presentation. You'll be able to, it'll give you a choice of a window and it should pop up.
Excellent. I got my fingers crossed.
Okay. Well, and I actually emailed the presentation to Mark. Should there be an issue, because I'm doing other things, he'll be able to put it on screen for you if you have trouble.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe we have 6 o'clock, clerk.
I have 6 o'clock as well.
And I see that all the members of council are present, as well as our work session speakers. So at this time, I'll call the city council work session to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining.
Here.
Germaine.
She's excused.
Okay. Lamore.
Present.
Felder.
Here.
Whitman.
Here.
Michaelangeli.
Present.
Mayor Clark.
Present. And we have a couple items and maybe some others that the manager may have. So I'll go to the city manager first. I know you have an order, and as you wish. Or
thank you, Your Honor. First item we have is just an update from the Opportunity Center at ALCC. Stephanie Kasperzak will provide that update. Stephanie?
Thanks.
All right, let me see if I can make some magic happen here.
Okay, well, welcome, Stephanie. I see that Emmanuel Hoskins is with you as well. So look forward to the presentation. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So can you guys see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
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 All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to come and present this evening. We have a number of items on the agenda for tonight. And so I put this PowerPoint together just mainly to make sure that everything flows. But certainly as we go through, if you guys have questions, you can stop and ask and let me know what your questions are. So, you know, we just obviously had a new sign put up when we took on everything in October. I can't believe this last year, to be honest. If you think about last year at this time, we were taking on the Opportunity Center and then we went into COVID-19 and wow, what a year it's been. But it has been a labor of love ever since we started at the Opportunity Center. And so you'll see our staff picture here. Our staff grew and expanded to about 56 employees at this point. So that's very exciting. The first item on the agenda, in our funding agreement, it does call for us to send the city our budget for the Opportunity Center for the next fiscal year. So I just put together a couple of bullet items, but I believe everybody has the full budget in front of them. So first and foremost, just a note that the MCOP fiscal year starts October 1st. And so we're nearing close to that point. Another note is just that the MCOP board will meet on the 23rd of September to approve this budget. So although you see the Opportunity Center budget in front of you, it hasn't been fully approved by our board yet. So there's still time to make changes if we need to do that. Our first year budget for the Opportunity Center was $312,000. This year's budget, you can see, is $443,457. So the increases in revenue included in this budget include some additional funding from the Commission on Aging. Over the past year, we've really changed our senior programs. Obviously, with COVID-19, we do direct deliveries of meals every day for seniors who would otherwise participate in programs at the center. But we want to make sure that they're safe and healthy in their home. And so we've been doing direct delivery. So we ran out of funds about a month ago, and the Commission on Aging gave us an additional $18,000 to get to the end of the year, and also approved an increase in funds for 2021. So that's included in the budget. We increased our fundraising from the prior year. We have the new MISHDA Neighborhood Enhancement Program. That is the one that City Council approved with a resolution to assist with Cultivate Community, but also the two community gardens, the community garden at the Opportunity Center and also the Selma Rankins Garden, which we're working with Kelly on. We received Philbeck funds to support our food programming at the Opportunity Center. And then just recently, our Community Services Block Grant, we put in a new staff position for a community health hub. So I'll talk about that project in a little bit. So those are the increases in revenue that you see in the budget. The changes in expenses for the upcoming year include a 1.88% increase in our benefit package. We also have a union at MCOP. We're part of the UAW Local 174, and we have our wage adjustments that are within our contract included in the budget. As I mentioned, because we're doing direct delivery to seniors for meals, that has increased our budget for gasoline, for vehicle maintenance, things like that, so we can continue to deliver those meals directly. And then we also had increases in salaries due to the addition of the Community Health Hub Coordinator. So that's just a brief overview of the changes that we had in our budget as it relates to revenue and expenditures. And I know you guys have all the line items in front of you. Did anybody have any questions on the budget before we move on?
I'll see if there's any questions from council members, and I have to move the screen here to see if there's any hands raised. Otherwise, just please speak up.
If I can,
Your Honor.
Yeah, I see it. Oh, I see a hand
Yeah.
from
sorry.
Andrew and then John. Andrew, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm wondering, and this is less a question for Stephanie because I know she wasn't there yet, but do we have any idea what the budget was the year prior to MCOP taking over?
It was around $250,000. So somewhere
Okay.
around $250,000 was the year prior.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
John.
Thanks, Your Honor. A couple questions. First, at the top of the budget, there are numbers that say fund number 424-571-08. What do those stand for?
Those are the separate fund accounts that we have. So for example, 05 is the Commission on Aging. So if you follow along the Commission on Aging to 05, that's just really for our internal accounting purposes. When we do cost allocations, we know which funding source to allocate that to.
Okay. Second question is under travel staff. Can you tell me what travel outside means?
Yes, that's field trips. So travel within is really our staff getting reimbursed for any mileage they use their own car for. Travel outside is for our field trips. And so you'll see that's quite a large item because we, last year, and then we're putting it in for this year, we hope to take a field trip to Washington, DC. But also we do a lot of different field trips with students throughout the year, whether it be for Black History Month or to take people to a basketball game, something like that. You know, with COVID, it's going to be a little different, but we didn't want to leave it out. So it's still in there as a pretty large line item.
Okay, and then my last question, Stephanie, is just out of curiosity, you had $750 for audit expense. And I'm just wondering if that's too low based on the fact that you have all these different accounts set up with different agencies and you're going to have to audit those funds, you know, more specifically.
Well, our audit costs get spread across all of our programs that allow for it. So typically what that means is we spread that out evenly by department. It does look low now that you say that, but I think that there's probably a method to that.
Okay.
We have in this upcoming year a pretty substantial amount of new funds coming in for COVID related activities. So audit cost is one of those things that can be spread across just about every grant and fundraising line that we have. So we try and keep the burden on departments very low for that.
Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Other questions from council members? Okay, seeing none, I think Stephanie.
All right. So, you know, with COVID-19 in the summer, we did put forth some activities just to make sure that City Council was aware of what we were doing and to make sure it was okay. And we want to do the same for fall and winter since we're still, you know, knee deep in COVID-19. We want to make sure that you guys know that we're taking every safety precaution available. And so these are our proposed activities for fall and winter. And then, you know, we can talk about after we're done outlining them, you know, if we think it's a good idea or not, and some of the safety precautions that we're going to put into place. So in terms of youth activities, we have Kids Club, which is usually Mondays and Wednesdays after school. We have tutoring, which is Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Manuel can correct me if I'm wrong there. I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That is correct.
Okay. And then we started a project with Monroe Public Schools, you know, because we are a neighborhood community center, we wanted to make sure that we were partnering with MPS. And so we did start a learning lab. Obviously with construction, we weren't able to do that at the center right from the get-go. So right now we're doing it at Orchard High School. And we have our staff who are working at the Learning Lab at Orchard High School. Once construction is done, it is our hope to bring the Learning Lab to the center. And so we will do that from about 8:30 in the morning till about 2:15 or 2:30 in the afternoon. And then we also provide after-school meals in cooperation with the Monroe Family YMCA. So those are our youth activities that we have planned right now. Kids Club and tutoring kind of go, Kids Club is Monday, Wednesday, tutoring is Tuesday and Thursday. And so we feel like there's enough of separation of these activities that we won't have too many kids and there won't be congregating. And then the same is true for senior activities. So we have a sewing class, and that's quite a small group. We have bingo, exercise class, and then daily lunch meals. So those are all things that typically we see between 5 and 15 people. Exercise and sewing class is definitely a smaller amount of people, where bingo and your daily lunch might be a few more. But we believe that given the social area and how much space that we have, that we'll be able to make sure that people are socially distanced during those activities. We did start to operate the equipment lending program early on in the year, and that is through a grant with the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan. In March, that program was halted, and then they changed the parameters. So now instead of lending the sports equipment, we can still give the equipment out to families to use during quarantine, but it does not need to get returned to us. So we've had a series, we've had soccer balls, basketballs, we had baseball kits, we just got in hockey sticks and pucks. So we continue to give recreation equipment out to families to use at home while they're in quarantine, which has been a really nice addition to some of our other programs. I want to talk for a minute about the Community Health Hub. That is a new project that Manuel and Shantara are the co-chairs of our advisory council, and Shantara has a community health background. When she first came on staff as our food director, she came to the center and she did a community health survey because that is her expertise. And it showed that dental and behavioral health are two gaps that we need to fill in the community. And so we've been working collaboratively with Family Medical Center now for a couple of months to bring a community health hub to the Opportunity Center. And so we're hoping that once construction is finished and on or around November 1st, that we'll be able to open a small dental office at the center, and they'll be able to provide a mobile dental space so that we can provide those services to folks at the Opportunity Center right there. So that is where our Community Health Hub coordinator comes in. We have a full-time staff person who is now on board, and they are working on just putting the partnerships together to make sure that we're getting off the ground November 1st. Dental is one of those things that, we're going to have people in an office, we're going to be able to have masks and everything all the time. So we'll be following strict guidelines with that due to COVID. We'd like to open the gym and weight room with limited amounts of people coming in once construction is over, so we can talk a little bit about that. We definitely don't want a lot of people coming in and congregating, but as much as we can control it, we want to allow for people to come and use the weight room and the gym in small groups of people. And then just so everybody knows, the intention is once the kitchen is fully finished, that we will be in partnership with the Monroe Family YMCA, and they will be utilizing the kitchen to prepare their meals for their year-round and summer feeding programs. And then we will also continue our mobile food pantries, which have been going on this whole time, but we'll continue those outdoors. But we're also planning a opportunity market, which is a food pantry within the Opportunity Center. So just so everybody knows, we will, once opening up after construction, be following the CDC guidelines. We will be limiting the amounts of participants in each of the programs to make sure that we can ensure social distancing. Once everything is back into place, once construction is complete, between the social area and the gym upstairs, we believe that there will be adequate space to socially distance when it comes to the learning lab, for example. But also our senior programs, kids club, as well as tutoring, we'll be able to have adequate space. In one of our grants, we put funds for iPads and Chromebooks to assist the students, so we can make sure that they have the technology they need to be successful in school. But also we'll utilize that for mentoring as well, so people can FaceTime and use their devices, so they don't always have to be in person. MCOP is part of the Mask Up initiative, and so we do have probably about 10,000 masks here at MCOP. And I say that not just because we've been using them at this Opportunity Center in MCOP, but also if any of you need masks, we have plenty. We were able to drop some off to Mickey Germaini last week to use on the LET buses, but if anybody needs any, we do have plenty. Masks will be provided and worn during programming. We will be taking participants' temperatures and doing a symptom screening upon their entry into the building. Any activities with large crowds or congregating will not be planned at this point. So those are the guidelines that we're going to be following for these fall and winter activities. Anybody have questions? Or Manuel, do you want to pipe in on some of the activities?
Well, just to piggyback on what Stephanie was saying, our plan is to utilize the gym and the social areas for our tutoring and mentoring. And like she said, I feel that we can accomplish this safely. We have plenty of room in the social area as well as the gym. So I don't think it'll be an issue as far as proper social distancing would go.
Does anybody have any questions, thoughts?
Questions from council? See no hands raised or anybody visually, so I guess continue. Oh, Kelly.
Hi, yes. You know, basketball is a big deal. I was wondering, that wouldn't be able to go on in the gym right now. Is that correct?
That would be correct. But they would be able to.
Asking about basketball, asking about the gym.
But we would be able to maybe do some skills. We have Henry, young man that's doing some stuff with our youth. It won't be like one-on-one basketball or organized basketball, but we have enough space to where they can at least work on their skills. Basically, just like a skills camp. We can utilize social distancing with that.
Great, great. Thank you.
Okay, I see no others right now. So Stephanie or?
All right, so we have a couple of grant opportunities that we'll be seeking or have already sought and had secured. One is the Ralph Wilson grant. I just wanted to take an opportunity to talk about this a little bit. I don't know who's seen the community garden, but it looked amazing this year. So even though we got a little bit of a late start, we really rocked it out of the park and had some wonderful, fresh and healthy food for people. We want to continue to work to enhance the community garden space. And so Kathy Russo from the Community Foundation and Mark Cochran and I were on a call, and we talked about this idea of further development of the space around the community garden. And so this is a grant that pays for design opportunities that promote play and integrate culture. And so it sounded like the perfect opportunity for us to apply. And so Kathy Russo at the Community Foundation took the lead. There was a, I don't know if it was a letter of intent or just, you know, who is interested in this opportunity that Kathy did submit on September 14th. The full application isn't due until the end of October. But we do want to continue to enhance the community garden and make sure that it is just a well-designed space. And so this would allow us to pay for a designer to come in and to help us design the space. The other one we would like to apply for is the Monroe Community Foundation. And so we would put into that grant the startup cost for the Community Health Hub Dental Clinic. So there is a mobile dental unit that's available that the Family Medical Center would need to be able to start up. So we're going to be seeking that grant in the fall. I think those are due October 15th. The Philbeck Foundation has been extremely generous to MCOP when it comes to feeding and kids. And so we would like to apply to the Philbeck Foundation to do not only our food pantry, but also to integrate some nutrition education activities once construction is over. And then we already applied for next year for Community Services Block Grant. And that this year we had 9 summer youth who were employed. We had a couple of the youth who were here at MCOP in our food pantry, and then Manuel had the other youth at the Opportunity Center, and it worked. It was amazing. So we increased it next year, and we're going to have between 10 and 12 youth for the next summer youth employment program next summer. So those are some grant opportunities that are coming down the pipeline. Any questions with regard to those?
You know, I don't see any hands raised yet, so if there are, they can speak up, but I don't see any right now. Guess we're good to go.
All right. Well, I noticed that Vince put on labor park programming, and to be really honest, with COVID and my schedule, I have not given a lot of thought to labor park programming coming up, honestly. But you know, this is the language that's in our funding agreement. We did agree last year at this time when we were getting into our contract that we would to provide special events and programming at Labor Park. And so that is something that we will think about, I think, as the year ends here. Due to COVID-19, it's my understanding that special events are not currently able to be planned until the end of the year. But rest assured that we will get on top of it, and we will make sure that we have recreational events and activities planned early next year, so we're ready to go in the spring, as long as, you know, COVID is, you know, where we can get out again and plan those activities. So I didn't have very much there, unless people had any questions or certain things that they wanted to see.
Kelly.
Yes, Stephanie, I was thinking about Tot Lot was a program that we formerly had in Labor Park. So that could be something that could be pretty easily implemented working with the city Parks and Rec Department. It was really successful when we had it at Labor Park. And of course, that was when it was just a strip of grass. And so I can only imagine how successful it would be with the new park program.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's perfect. We have our community health hub coordinator, Myra South, is really excited about summer programming. So summer camps, Tot Lot, I think would fit right into that. Just anything that we can do to, you know, engage young people and families throughout the summer, I think is definitely where we're heading. I just hadn't given a lot of thought to it quite yet.
If I may, Your Honor.
Yes, Vince.
Just part of it was just to put this out here as the park is winding down as far as being completed. Obviously, not available for programming this year, but also I think I had a recollection that we were going to make some commitment to help with the programming from a funding standpoint as well. So obviously, as Stephanie indicated, there's some time during the course of the winter to start the planning and come back to council with, you know, what kind of programs we would anticipate and if there's any additional funding that would be needed or necessary. So this was just kind of a reminder for myself as well. But I think Councilwoman Vining reminded me last week or 2 weeks ago that, this was still out there. So kind of got on the radar again. So.
Okay, very good. Stephanie?
Yeah, all right. Some other site improvements, and these will be open for discussion. Part of our Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan grant was to put a shed up. And so I talked to Vince and Mark about putting the shed near the community garden. And so we just want to, we're gonna need to expend those dollars pretty quickly here. So just wanted to make sure that we had some discussion with you regarding the shed and its placement, and that it's okay to move forward with that. And then secondly, once the renovations are finished, we will be redoing the gym floor. And then we will be including the dedication to Darren Hoskins, and I included the design here. This is the fundraiser that we did in February at the Monroe Sports Center with the ALCC board. And we were able to raise the money to redo the gym floor and to add the dedication. So I'll just, any comments on that? Or can we move forward with the shed?
I'm looking, Kelly, you have your hand up, and then I'll look for Vince on that other comment. Kelly?
I was just gonna suggest, I don't know how much Vince knows or Stephanie, but I spoke with Jeff before the planting season, because we do need sheds on both of the gardens. And we started talking about that. So it might be good to talk, speak with Jeff Green in planning to a community development to see where he is, because they came up with some guidelines for the sheds. So of course, when they started the design of the Labor Park, we could never get back to the shed because of where we were going to place it no longer exists. But so I didn't follow up further with that, but we had already started some point in the process of the approval for those sheds. So Stephanie, if you want to get with Jeff Green, I don't know if he's on the call or anything, but I know we talked about that at length.
No, and earlier, I think this year, although it seems like a lifetime ago, I did receive some information regarding, the shed location on the site and some elevations with it. So we'll have to dig that back out. But I would, I don't think I ever shared it with council. That's part of the reason for having this discussion. So, but we can provide something back just so council's aware of what's being considered. So.
All right.
All right. And then Vince put on there the vision, and that's a, I don't know how far you want me to go with the vision, but here's a couple of things that I included just to kind of get started. But I included on here our Opportunity Center Advisory Council went through a process last fall where we engaged Rebecca Krause, and we went through just some visioning and some planning. And so this was the purpose statement for the Advisory Council: mobilizing resources and empowering communities to create opportunities for everyone. So I thought that was a really great statement and has really been our vision ever since. The Advisory Council has met monthly. We meet via Zoom these days, but the really good work continues with the Advisory Council with Manuel and Shantara, our co-chairs, and several members that you'll see in a minute on the next slide. But short term, this is really within 3 months after reopening the construction. We would like to implement the Community Health Hub almost immediately. Our plan is November 1st, with our fingers crossed that construction will be done and we'll be able to design the space for the dental clinic right when we get finished with construction. At the same time, throughout the winter, we're going to be working on the Opportunity Market, which is our on-site food pantry. So we have designed space with the renovations for a food pantry that we're going to get up and going almost immediately. And we also want to have some nutrition education components, because that was the third greatest need of people we asked in the community health survey is what their greatest needs were. It was dental, behavioral health, and the nutrition education. So we want to begin implementing some nutrition education activities for pretty quickly. Within the next 3 months, we'll also begin planning for labor park programming to begin in spring 2021. So we'll be able to provide not only the programs and services that we want to offer, but also if there's any budgetary requirements at the time, we can do that. A longer term vision is to really make sure we have full summer programming. This was obviously the first summer that MCOP was involved at the Opportunity Center. And because of COVID, we really didn't get to do a full summer programming lineup. So I'm really excited just to kind of see that come into place, whether it's camps, tot lots, you know, all kinds of family engagement with Labor Park and the center being fully ready to go. But I see a long-term vision, also another phase of renovation. What I would like to do now that there's going to be a splash pad in Labor Park is have an opportunity with the kitchen and our summer youth who are working at the center to reconfigure our lobby and make it a place that's either, you know, like a cafe or where people can get some food and snacks as a way for the Opportunity Center to make some money, but also for the youth to start thinking about jobs in their future. So I would love to see us reconfigure the lobby area at the Opportunity Center so that we can have a cafe kind of feel and the kids can get involved in selling food and we can make the food in the kitchen. And that would be one thing I would like to see. We've also been talking a lot with the ALCC board about bringing the boxing program back to the center. And so the vision there, if we did a second phase of renovation, would be not only to reconfigure the lobby, but perhaps do an expansion so we can bring the boxing program back to the center. We feel like with the recreational activity, but also all the life skills programming that we've been doing with the ALCC board over the past year, that is just the right space for it. Currently, there isn't enough room. We may be able to do it for a couple of months, but we'd love to see another phase of renovation where we can rethink the lobby and get the boxing program right back at the center. So those are some visions that I have. Over the last year, we've been working very close with the ALCC board on several different programs. We had life skills programming. We did the Darren Hoskins fundraiser, but we'd really like to look at the future in getting the boxing program back and continuing that wonderful partnership that we have. So these are our advisory council members. We have very active participation in monthly meetings for our advisory council. A lot of folks have been very engaged in bringing programs to the center. And many folks have more opportunities once we get out of COVID to starting some really innovative new things at the center as well. So it's been a great group. And Manuel is the co-chair along with Sean Terra here in our office at MCOP. She's our food and operations director. I can't say enough about this group. They've just really stayed together and offered some great ideas. So with that, if anybody has any other questions, we can go through them. If anybody has any visions they'd like to share so we can make sure it happens, that would be great.
Stephanie, I'll see if the council members do. I have one, I think you kind of started, or you did touch on it, regarding the career employment and opportunities that are that you envision. I think the staff and the board envisions as well. I think that's great. I think we've talked about that as a council, and we're looking at that as we get into our goals and objectives. And one of the items we are looking at is those opportunities. And I think the center has many places that could occur, just as you already said, and the life skills is one of those. But, you know, in the past, there's been, we've discussed in the public safety arena and partnering with the fire and the police and MCA, because I know they offer summer camp. obviously this year put a kind of hold on all that just for the very reasons that you said, and how we might introduce youth at the right time in their life, and then a follow-up that might lead into a cadet type program with the city, so we can get to all of our youth interested in employment, of course, in jobs. I think the kitchen's a great example of that. The culinary arts program with the community college. I know a couple of restaurants have offered their services. They went through the culinary arts program themselves. Graduates of that have are running restaurants. So I think there's many opportunities there. And obviously, as you get moving forward, some vision, I'm sure that's on your list of thinking how to find that place where the youth thinks they have an opportunity that they think is what they want to do in their life, but also make the pathway and mentoring in that employment standard too. So.
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to do this year, which we didn't get to, is every week bringing in a different person to talk to the summer youth employment kids about a different pathway, career pathway. So, we might work with the fire station one week and have firefighters come in. We can have Mike Smith come in and talk about the trades.
Right.
We can have Kojo come in and talk about community college. So, that's one thing that I think you'll see next year, once it's a more normal year, I suppose, to really get the kids, because they were mostly 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And so we want to get that exposure to them so that they know that the opportunities that are available for them as they get out of high school.
Excellent. Thank you. I know the National Park and Scott Bentley, and they have programs and opportunities there as well for youth to be right there in our community and work at the National Park, as that they kind of get into the new Education Visitor Center. John, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wonder if we're at an appropriate time with some of the long-term vision, that as a prelude to potential grant funding in the future, that if we invest a little bit of money and actually develop a conceptual plan to kind of create, as Stephanie was talking about, kind of like a health and lifestyle addition to the building, just to understand what the space programming would be and the potential cost in the event that any foundation or federal or state grants open up for that type of an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that planning is better now than when it's at the last minute trying to put a grant in and figuring out all that might be. It's always good to have plans in place. I agree, John. I'm looking over to Vince. I'm sure he has some experience exposure as well there.
Just to make sure, John, you're kind of looking at more of a architectural planning, space analysis, programming, that type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if they're talking about reorganizing the lobby and putting in a small cafe that both serves the indoor and outdoor functions. And then the idea of having, the health and the lifestyle, like dental, architectural, conceptual design, space programming with a rough number of what that construction cost would be, at least to get us thinking that if a grant comes up there, if there's foundation funds.
Well, if we go that route, I'd probably look to include the library into that programming calculation as well, because I know there's some, needs that they have with the facility, but to integrate that probably into the operation a little bit more as well. So, okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yep. Other questions from council or any follow-up comments?
Great presentation.
Yes.
Now, I didn't share numbers, but I'm hoping that you guys are getting our quarterly reports so you can see all the numbers broken down. And we'd love to come back after we get through a full year, which would just be in a month or so, to share our full year of numbers. That would be amazing.
Great.
Yep, I saw this evening, I received in the mail the MCOP annual report, and it was great to see that information in there from a overall, but also what was inclusive in there in your the great work being done by you and the staff and Emmanuel and everybody at the Opportunity Center. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've never worked so hard in my life.
your work is paying off. We certainly appreciate it, and you're making us feel a lot better about our decisions. So on behalf of council, I want to say thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it's very informative. I think there's a lot to think about, and there's always, as we say, as we progress forward, there's more to do because there's opportunities to do it, and we want to deliver that together. So thank you. I think I'll go to the city manager. I think we have another item.
Yes, we do, Your Honor. We have Dr. Kojo Corte from Monroe County Community College asked to speak before the council tonight. I see he was a participant on our list there. So Kojo, if you're ready.
Yep.
Yes,
Welcome and
good.
thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you very much, Vince. To the mayor and the council members, I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk to you about the upcoming elections. We have a renewal, our college has a renewal on the ballot on November 3rd. And so I'm just simply here to ask you to support that if you could. But just to say a couple of things. We, during this COVID crisis, and there's never been a time like this in our recent history, or at least since we've been alive, all of us. And we have responded as a college, providing PPE, including to MCOP, shields to MCOP. In the past, we've worked with the community garden. We had a grant, and Kelly is aware of this. We had a grant where we worked with the gardens. And I believe even the raised beds there were produced by a construction program, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But so we've been at the forefront with Michelle of the census, the voter registration, and now it's time for our community to step forward and support us as they have. It's a renewal. It's a zero increase. And I remember even 6 years ago when we lost the millage, we won in the city of Monroe. That was the only place where we won, in the city of Monroe, even though we lost everywhere else in the county. And when we won 4 years ago, we won by the largest margin in the city of Monroe. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here. But if I can get an amen, I'll keep it. No. Anyway, so I really appreciate all that you do for us in terms of support. I live in the city, 328 East 8th Street. And in terms of the money we received from the first millage, we've renovated many parts of our campus. We have a new building now, the Founders Hall. You need to stop by and see it if you haven't seen it. We've taken the East and West Tech buildings and we've joined them. And we have student collaborative space in there. And we've done some work also in the life sciences building, and we're doing much more work. We're working with your police department now on providing implicit bias training for law enforcement. We're also working with the library to provide that. We have some upcoming, and I know a couple of you are maybe running for some office or another. And so we have a Meet the Candidates event coming up at the end of the month. And then we have some debates coming up also in the middle of October. So, with that, I don't have much else to say, but to ask for your support with our college, not asking people to vote yes, if you could, all well and good. But I don't know if the city could do a resolution just supporting the college's millage renewal, a zero increase.
Well, thank you, Kojo, and I'll see if there's any follow-up comments from council members, but I will say that here read just the last few days or so ago, the piece that was in the Monroe News that you had authored, very informative. Appreciate that you presented that to the community for their awareness, and I'm sure that if there are questions or comments, I'm sure you were more than willing to accept those and speak with people about that. So, but I thought if those that may not have read it, I could always go back and catch that through an electronic read potentially, provide some of the same information you just said.
Yes, sir.
Members, let's see if there's any. Andrew. And then Andrew first.
Kelly.
Thank you, Your Honor, if I may. Thank you so much, Dr. Corte, for coming to speak with us this evening
Thank
on
you.
all these, very worthy topics, both the community college and then the census as it's coming up, how that's going to impact our communities, both of them, for the very long term. I know that 6 years ago, when we did our first shot at the millage there, then Congressman Dingell came down and offered his support, as did then Senator Levin, actually at an event at the college to offer that support. I know I was on, I sat with you and a few other members of the community on a sort of an after action report once the millage failed on how to pursue this in the future. So I do hope that the city gets behind that. I think the college does a lot for this community in terms of service and engagement, and that you personally, of all the people in this community who have a positive impact, your name certainly has to be near the top of that list.
Well, thank you.
Forte.
Thank you.
I think it offers a very practical and a very affordable education, and that we should support that in any way possible. I think it's going to have a direct impact not only on the residents, but on the overall economic impact that it's going to have for all of Monroe County, and that it's a good thing, and we should support that.
Well, thank you.
I know that I feel called out now, and I do plan on attending the event at the community college this month and next month.
Yeah, we saw a yes from you. So when I said some of you may be running,
when I talk about community engagement, there's a fine example right there. So
yes.
Thank you for putting events like that on.
Hey, if not us, then who's going to do it? So yes, we'll continue to do that, reaching out to our community. And just in terms of ALCC, the Opportunity Center, and both Kelly and Manuel know this. I don't want to use the I's, but I'm one of the tutors. Up until before COVID, I'm twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I leave my office and I go and I sit with those kids to tutor them. And so I've been doing that I've been here for 7 years. For 7 years, there were some who started with me 7 years ago, and they are no longer around. I mean, they're still in the community, but they don't show up anymore. It's not the easiest thing, Miss Kelly, you know this, to work with those kids. But I'll leave it alone.
Hey, Kelly, you had a hand raised, and I'll go to John afterwards.
Yeah, I was gonna, both Stephanie and Dr. Corte brought up the community gardens, and yes, the community college has supported us, and also both agencies, MCOP and the community college, have been great supports to the garden. Every year it just gets better and better, and this year we were able to participate in a grant that MCOP wrote. So that's where the raised beds came from. But the elevated beds, Dr. Kojo, is what the college came out, and Andy and the guys came out and built for us. So every year it gets better. I was excited to hear about the design grant, Stephanie, because that's always in my head, to find ways to make it better and more user-friendly for the community. So I'll email you some ideas I have for that. Also, as far as the college and the kitchen, when that idea started years ago, that started with the idea of specifically the council wanting to see the college more engaged in the city proper, especially in terms of offering credit type offerings where people could actually earn credit classes. And I know we've kicked it around and a lot of ideas about that, and you need to have a strong infrastructure to do that. So hopefully that's something we'll see more in the future. We have the Learning Bank, of course. You've been heavily involved with that, Dr. Corte, and that's something, it takes 3 buses to get to the college, at least from my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So it's almost an hour or so one way. So to be able to take some of those classes remotely,
Sure, sure.
and things, that would be great. So that's something that might be, hopefully a short term, it might be a little long term, but that's something that we want to really see in the city limits.
Yeah,
So,
I think we can do that. And we've offered some classes on the east side at Oaks and also the Learning Bank over the last few years. So we can,
great.
and culinary, we've reconfigured our culinary program so we can have some type of a la carte courses, and so we can certainly do that.
Great, yeah, that'll be amazing. I think all these different components and how they'll come together will be really great. So thank you both for the support at the Rankins Garden. We really appreciate it.
John.
Thanks, Your Honor. I just want to kind of go over this with the council. You know, the community college is a key foundational element of the county, both primarily from an educational point of view. But in today's world, it takes an education to promote economic development. And the more educated our population is, the greater they're going to succeed in tomorrow's world that's wrapped around technology.
Yes.
So I think it's appropriate for the council to pass a resolution of support for the college millage, primarily because it not only supports the education, but it really provides a foundational element for our economic development program that we're all striving for.
I guess I'll follow up with that, John. I think that when you look at, you know, the council knows this, we get many requests for many different type of proclamations and resolutions. And over the years, we've really kind of, I won't say trimmed it down as much as looked at it and say, where is the direct connectivity to the city, the residents, the city council? And I think this is one of those that where we've recognized others that have where the city has benefited from or had partnered with. I know we have something this evening, which was a direct relation to our ability to get some grant funds and other things we did with that person, but also group. And the college is an example of that. You know, look, you think of the many residents in the city of Monroe who went to Monroe County Community College and are employed not just here locally, but across the country, and still remember their time from the community college. So that's something that I would support. And I think it's something that we can put together, get the information together for our meeting here, the 1st of October. At least I would think that, and we'll get input from council members as we start to draft that and send that out.
Thank you very much, Councilman Iconelli. Anyway,
You're
John.
There you go.
And Mayor Clark. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity. And I guess, do I have to stay for the rest of the meeting?
No, you don't. It's not necessary, sir, but you're welcome to stay. Everybody's welcome. But we understand times of everybody's time is have many obligations. So thank you for presenting and
thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Have a good evening.
I appreciate it.
Good evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Vince, I know that's the two items, but I think you had something if we had time to review or maybe speak about. It's up to you. We have time. Something you wanted to, if not, we'll see what's up. You're muted.
I'd like to talk about the items on the agenda tonight. Mr. Green's going to give us a little background on it, but we have tonight the zoning ordinance and sign ordinance public hearings and scheduled for a second reading, and we're going to ask for a little bit of change in the regular meeting agenda. So with Jeff and Matt, if you guys can introduce that for the council right now. Jeff, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, John. Or Jeff, I'm sorry. You guys.
So I was saying, as excited as I was to have this on the agenda, as after the first reading, we were going through and again, looking to fine tune this as much as we can. We found out that from the very outset of putting the ordinance together, and this goes back when we were working with McKenna, at least to start framing in what the form of this zoning code would look like, we did not include tattoo parlors. And of course, in our old zoning code, tattoo parlors were something that were more related to adult regulated uses. We don't think, of course, that tattoo parlors should probably fall within that category, but should have some restrictions placed on them, some standards. So we went back and worked at that. Also, we found going through the maps that lead into each zoning district that there were some minor Scribner's errors, some areas that were colored that indicated a particular zoning district, which should not have been. And so part of all what we decided in discussions with the city manager, in discussions with Mr. Buds, was that we probably need to offer additional time for comment in order to make sure that someone that might have looked at this zoning code is seeing exactly what that was, and that they would be able to look at any changes that were made. What we were requesting is that it be postponed for the second reading and looking at final adoption and the public hearing until October 20th. That would allow us to have the 15 days as required by state enabling legislation for planning, is that we are able to meet that. Unfortunately, we were kind of looking to see if we could do it yet for tonight. And again, after some discussions with Mr. Buds and myself and with the city manager, it didn't appear that we were going to be able to do that. I don't know if Mr. Buds has any comments he would like to add into that, but our feeling was that we certainly want to provide an opportunity for anyone to comment that wanted to comment on this.
Thanks, Jeff. Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, I would echo Mr. Green's comments and say that while we want to move that forward, I'm always, particularly in the case of the, I'll say, wholesale amendment of the entire zoning ordinance, I want to be careful about the process and procedure used. And since City Council is scheduled to have a public hearing on that matter, two items. One, I would say that we still have the public hearing that is scheduled for tonight in the event that there's anyone that wished to make comments that was already planning to do so, that we give that opportunity. But then the meeting be the second reading and an additional public hearing be held at that second meeting in October to make sure that we allow for public comment and appropriate public notice.
Okay, so I understand you moving forward. The recommendation from the staff and yourself is that we go ahead and hold the public hearing that's been posted for those that may wish to make comment. There may be some comments related to exactly what we're talking about on what it might be, kind of color coded as zone, but also then to postpone the second reading and hold us another public hearing at the October 20th meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Buds, is obviously when we get through the first public hearing, when it comes under council action, it's just a matter of you're asking the council a recommendation to postpone until that date. Does that suffice?
That is correct, yes, Your Honor, and to set up a public hearing. And I have to say, I apologize for not having this right off the top of my head. I can't recall, the Monday is on October 19th, and I can't recall if that's a holiday that would push us to the Tuesday, but I believe the 19th is the Monday.
Okay, the 19th.
It should be the 19th.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my mistake then.
Okay, it'd be the 19th. I'll get that correct then.
So just, if I may, Your Honor, add, my preference would be to take a similar action other than the public hearing for the signed ordinance. I think both the zoning and the signed ordinance makes sense to be adopted at the same meeting. So, we would, from administration standpoint, ask that not to take any action on that and just move it to the 19th of October.
Your Honor, I would concur on that. From the legal perspective, that makes life easy. I will say that they all get adopted at one kind of time, and we always know that's the date that both the change to the application of the sign ordinance and the zoning ordinance all will fall in line together.
Okay. John.
Thanks, Your Honor. I got a question for the attorney. I guess it's mainly procedural. is there really a need to have a second public hearing? Can't we have the public hearing and then the mayor, instead of closing it, can just make the statement that we're going to continue the public hearing at the October 19th meeting?
Procedurally, I think that that would be fine. I will also say that Mr. Green and I discussed whether there was any need in actuality for a public hearing at all. Under the Zoning Enabling Act, there is a public hearing that happens at the Planning Commission. And then if City Council deems it necessary or appropriate, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, to have another public hearing. As a matter of course, we generally have done that with new ordinances, I'll say across the board. And so that's why a public hearing, it's my understanding, was scheduled on this one. That was part of our normal process of an ordinance adoption. And so that's a long way of getting around and saying, yes, I think that that would be appropriate to say that the public hearing will be opened and then adjourned for future hearing on that October 19th. The only thing I want to be clear in when we say that is that we shouldn't use the words tabled, and we shouldn't say that it will be continued at the next meeting, because we're going to need it to be the second meeting in October to hit those notice provisions. And for public notice provisions, if we're going to not call it a separate hearing, but a continued hearing, that the notice just properly reflect that will go into the newspaper as well, that it's a continued public hearing regarding that topic.
Okay. See if there's any other questions.
So my understanding from what the attorney said was, at the conclusion of the public hearing, the mayor would not say that we're closing it, that he's going to say that we will continue the public hearing at the October 19th meeting.
That's my understanding. I'm looking, Mr. Buds, for a affirmation.
Yeah, I think that's acceptable. The only thing that will then need to be is a follow-on motion to postpone the second reading until that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
You want to continue the sign ordinance, or just hold the public hearing on the sign ordinance and not adopt it?
I believe that it would be appropriate to hold the public hearing. There aren't any changes there. We're doing that really for, I'll say, the timing fitting together of those two. So I believe that public hearing can be opened, any public comments taken, closed, and then the motion on that one can be to postpone the second reading and adoption until the second meeting in October.
Okay, thank you.
But also from an agenda amendment under council action, we would be removing those two items for action tonight, the second reading and the adoption. Everybody understand?
Yes.
Okay. Michelle, can you make me a co-host?
Sure.
How about so if I may, Your Honor, just take a few minutes to give council kind of an update regarding the La Pleasance Innovation District that we've been working with the Monroe County Business Development Corporation, Monroe Township, the county, and working in conjunction with OHM advisors regarding the potential development of that La Pleasance corridor. So if I'm ready to share the screen, looks like I can.
You should be. Do you see it? Share screen?
I do.
Okay, you're all set.
All right, now if I can just pick up there we go. I think that's the one I want. If I may just walk through this fairly quickly. One of the things with the study that came out of this is that at potential build out for commercial flex office warehouse distribution, this is the area we're looking at where the outlet malls are roughly, and then even across to the south, the area there, a little over 300 acres on the south end and about 150 acres potentially north of La Pleasance. But you're looking at a square foot potential build out of over 7 million square feet of buildings, estimating job potential up to 7,000 jobs. In many cases, given the nature of the industry, at least you're looking at a higher end type of type of positions there. Taxable value being very conservative at $150 million potential. And then right now, I put in parentheses COVID-19 special, but there is a U.S. EDA grant in which OHM and the BDC on our behalf have had some conversations about the first phase of this development with water, sewer, roads being about $6 million. Local match would roughly be 1.2 million as opposed to 3 million under most circumstances when the grant is usually at 50%. Part of the driver in some of this is certainly the rebuilding of the I-75. The road overpass right now is under reconstruction. Both of these can act as a catalyst for the corridor development. The County Road Commission is also looking at future improvements along La Pleasance. There's obviously with the grants and federal support for infrastructure improvements, particularly projects that they're ready. And clearly, local economy would benefit from a jumpstart on major economic development at a key access point for our broader Monroe community. And part of this is, again, this site was an area was recognized as part of the Monroe County Link development project or plan that was developed in 2015, looking at not only this area, but going in a direction with the logistics corridor. And what I didn't copy from the OHM report was that literally that the Detroit-Toledo corridor from a logistics standpoint may be one of the top 10 corridors throughout the nation, particularly once the Gordie Howe Bridge is open with all of the international traffic and transportation that will be taking place as well. So it has phenomenal potential, for that redevelopment. There's two things with it is the local match, the funding mechanism is a local development finance authority functioning very similar to what you would have with a downtown development authority where you have tax increment capture and also with the recently adopted corridor improvement plan that we did on for Telegraph. It is the financing mechanism for the local match and other aspects of implementing the innovation district, if you will. But even though this resides in Monroe Charter Township, doesn't appear that they could act to do this on their own since they don't meet the definition contained in the statute regarding being an urban township. There are criteria as to what governmental jurisdictions can establish an LDFA. Based on the definition of an urban township, they would not qualify. As a result, and best partner would be the city establishing the LDFA, and the map we would establish the mapping area. But one thing with it, the LDFA has some statutory provisions regarding their membership, one appointed by the county, one appointed by the community college, kind of ties in with the conversation that we had with Dr. Kojo regarding the importance of education and as well as economic development. Two appointed by Monroe Charter Township. There's language in the statute that talks about the last jurisdiction levying ad valorem tax the preceding year gets two appointments upon that establishment. They would have two members and then three appointed by the mayor. For my end, I'd recommend maybe somebody from the Port Commission. But the LDFA, again, similar to the DDA, establishes the development and tax increment financing plan. So establishing that framework, the important part of it is getting to a Public Act 425 agreement, which is a jurisdictional transfer. And this is where the negotiation takes place as to what those conditions are. Need to define the property area. This is just kind of my note to myself. That would be contained obviously in the recitals, the statutory authorizations. But I think more importantly for the benefit of not only everyone now, but also future, why it was established is, the benefit is for economic and community development purposes. the benefit of single regulatory control, leveraging the city's economic development resources that we have, benefit to township, city, and all taxing entities. And I'll pull up a spreadsheet showing how that works. That everybody benefits. Opportunity for job creation benefiting the entire region. And then also part of that language would include to establish the LDFA. The statute allows for 50 years with the option for another 50-year renewal. In our conversations, there's been some concern about the length of the agreement. Part of it's going to be driven by the fact that if there is any long-term debt issued for the infrastructure that goes along with it, that you're going to at least more than likely need a minimum of 20 years. But if you're going to have that also have that level of development, and it's not going to happen all at once, you will have other projects and improvements that take place. And so, I think probably in the neighborhood of 40 years is with a renewal option is something to be considered. One of the things that's always going to be, and it's always a concern with city and townships working together here in the state of Michigan, and Mr. Angeli can echo that there's always a level of, I don't want to say distrust, but it is distrust. And concern that, the city would be taking over. And one of the ideas that was presented to me was establishing a joint township city planning commission, mostly looking at, once it's established, site plans that would take place within that district. But it would be a composition, looking at possibly 3 township, 3 city, maybe 1 non-resident of township or city appointed by the county, so that there is at least equal footing with the county making an appointment to that as well. And then one of the considerations is the feasibility of combining that with the LDFA board, since there are 7 members statutorily identified in there. I would look at both jurisdictions approving the sub area and PUD zoning. Certainly a joint process would have to be outlined regarding future amendments to that district from a land use. And then also we've had conversation, including an area east of the freeway interchange. And I think that's also important, is that the tax increment capture could be used for improvements on the other side. But I also think the land use planning that goes along and can complement what would take place west of the freeway interchange is equally important as well. So as proposed, somewhat similar to what we had talked about when we were at the Lazy Boy site with the Frenchtown Township, is the city would reimburse the equivalent of their millage that they have there, and also include a future fire millage, which I think is on the ballot for Monroe Township this November. I put in there also the industrial facility tax certificates. This is obviously from an economic development standpoint, very critical in the attracting businesses, particularly when we're in competition with a state that may have a more favorable tax situation only 11 miles south of this point. So it would have to be approved by the city. This is part of the infrastructure that we've done this a number of times, setting up the districts. But also the city assessor preparing the reports to the tax commission for this is, again, part of what we do, on a regular basis. Although up for negotiation, administrative, I would look at assessing and tax collection kind of going hand in hand. Community development, we talked a little bit about that. Building inspections, certainly economic development, grant administration. Yeah, we already do the water and sewer, from the city utilities department, roads and stormwater, although that can be done by the road commission as well. Someone brought that up. Engineering permits, clearly Mr. Lewis's office handles a lot of those details as well. Parks and Rec not being applicable. Public safety could patrol the 425 area. And the one thing that through the discussion is, given the location of the fire station for Monroe Township and their importance of being able to serve not only this district, but also Bulls Harbor, in relationship to where it's sited by the two railroad systems that pass through La Pleasance there. So that may be one that makes sense to continue with the township. The areas that we've discussed, and I'm going to try and rush through this here just so I can get it out there for everybody, is, you know, the phase one area is the area northwest of La Pleasance that we talked about, which is kind of defined where the outlet malls are. South of La Pleasance, the golf course, and there's a number of other parcels that run along there. Township would include the area east of the freeway interchange for consideration. I should say that there are some residential properties in these immediate areas, and I think it makes sense to exclude them since there is no immediate benefit to them related to this. Although part of the discussion was, well, when they if they were to sell and wanted to join, could they? And the answer is obviously that's possible. The city area would be the industrial area east of the Canadian National Railroad, excluding DTE. I say that's important because obviously with their taxable value declining, you don't want to include them in your tax increment district. We're also looking at area north of the river, including the campground and small portion of the Ford property is a possible area. And then that area just to the south of Conant and that area there that is already owned by the Port Authority, the port at this point. Again, city would assume all responsibility for the LDFA. The LDFA submits the board the budget and the capture recommendation to the council. Ultimately, the council still has to adopt the budget and set the capture rate. And I'll come back to that when I pull up the spreadsheet real quick. Tax increment would not exceed 50%. And then again, the LDFA composition that I talked about earlier. And then the termination and sunset of would go along with any of the details with that. So let me see if I can get back to, I got to pull up the right. Bear with me. All right, how do I dump this shared screen, Mark?
There should be something that, oh, here, I'll do it.
Okay. And then I'll pull up the other, the spreadsheet that goes with this here. So this is just kind of an example. I threw numbers in there with what investment could take place, and I use round numbers, $500,000 or $100 million, not out of the question upon the full development, less half of the true cash value to get to roughly what your, your SEV or taxable value would be. The one thing there where I've got the cursor, less 50%, 12-year industrial facility tax, that reduces the amount of really what's available. And then I always end up doing a discount factor, knowing full well that there is always a difference between what the true cash value or the market value is and what the taxable value. But you can see that if you set that TIF capture at 50%, the base capture that gets spread across all entities, you can see what goes in the first column being the city general fund, and then how much would be contributed to all of the other entities that levy taxes within the city itself. And you can see quickly if at that amount you develop a pretty good revenue stream for the LDFA, but also a very good stream for all of the other taxing entities as a result if this development came to fruition and realize the potential that our consultants, OHM advisors had identified. As can I scroll down on this a little bit? How do we get down a little bit further? Oh, shoot. There we go. So one of the things that looks at this is, what's the effect on the township? And again, there's some concern that, gee, they're not getting anything out of this. But if you were to just take their straight levy, and again, that 3.79 mils is which I think they levied in 2019 and applied it to, the the discount at 22,000, even a higher amount, so they're not even negatively affected by the IFT. You can see what those numbers look like, and if you include their township fire millage, if it was to pass this November, what that would look. And here's what the city share is. So you can see that there is great potential for the township to benefit from this project, you know, and I don't, you know, basically, you know, from our end of it, we do need to consider expanding our tax base as a result of not only our recent settlement with DTE, but also the long term. But by having good paying jobs in the immediate area, it benefits obviously our community's tax base, not only with residential base, but also a stronger commercial base to serve that population as well. And so while there's not contained in there, but everyone realizes the multiplier effect. So what I wanted to do in accomplishing this tonight is to let you know where we're at with this, look for your support on that, and but also let, since it's been discussed at the township trustee level, that I felt, well, okay, we can bring it out and talk with it publicly. Still more negotiating, a couple of legal issues that I'll have to engage Matt's opinion on, but I think at that point, just wanted to provide you an update.
All right, Vince, I know that we're running short on time. We have about 8 minutes, but early on, Andrew, you had a question. Maybe it got answered, or you're going to save it for a later date. There's a lot of information here. I'm sure we're going to have a follow-up as well, but maybe if there's something you had there, Andrew, to start with, and then we'll see with others.
Yeah, I did initially have a question. Some of it got answered. For the EDA grant that we would pursue through the federal government, is that a time contingent grant? You said that those were funds that were dispersed as COVID relief. I'm wondering do those become unavailable at a certain date, and is the project still feasible without them?
Mark and I, we have this understanding in talking with them, is that once those funds are gone, they're gone. So it's if you get in line and you're available, great, but once they're exhausted, they're no longer available. It's back.
The time is really of the essence if this is going to be.
It's all, you know, falling together with the road work at I-75 and a lot of the plans that are taking place. Yes.
And your read of the township is that they are supportive of this proposal?
Well, I think there's still I think there's some opposition. I mean, when there was a vote last week, it was a 4-3 to keep going, which is it still is. But I also think that there's still support broadly and with the folks on the committee, but they're still doing their due diligence and recognize that the devil is in the details as we proceed.
John, you have a question.
Just a quick comment, Your Honor, just primarily for the education of council. 425s are a great win-win for the city and the participating township in terms of economic development and job development. But I think a really good example in Monroe County is the Village of Dundee and Dundee Township, what they have done together on the west side of US 23 relative to the Cabela's development and all of the hotel and residential development that occurred in that part of the county. And it's always because of a really well-constructed partnership between the village and the township and the use of the 425 agreement.
I agree. I know that we're running real close. I'm looking for the clerk. We have about 5 minutes, so I'm not sure we can have further comments this evening on this one. Vince, I'm sure that you may get some comments from the council members and maybe something you collectively bring back to everybody, or maybe a further conversation as we continue to talk with the township and the other parties.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Certainly some tremendous potential here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, John, your point's well taken. There's examples, but this is one that's close in our county, in our partners that we deal with others. And while they're, it's just going to take some more informative discussion and see the benefit for all. Thank you. All right. I think at this time we, about 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and close the work session, and we'll just hang on until we get ready to start our regular meeting at 7:30. Thank you all, and thanks for the presentation.
Just a reminder, the recordings are all staying on, so.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Mute.
Ah, shoot.
And Vince, YouTube's still on and your audio is on also. There you go. I think we're about at 7:30,
We are.
and we'll see if council will start coming back and also on both video and audio. I see each of the council members are coming back. It must be a delay as people come back in. It can't be all at the same moment, it appears.
Maybe.
Yeah, we have a couple more.
Yeah.
Well, we have a quorum. I think we will wait a moment. We know they're here from our work session. It just might be a sign-on delay, that's all.
I am here. I'm just trying to get back on to where you can see me.
We can, Councilwoman Whitman, we can see you, and we could hear you, and we can see Councilwoman Vining. There's Councilman Felder, and Councilman Michelangelo was on, and there's Councilman Lamore. So I think we're here.
Well, I can't see anyone, so trying to figure out what in the world.
So we are still on live on the YouTube, and Councilman Michelangelo, I know you're here. We don't see you, but I think we could move forward if we're all on board, if you confirm. Oh, very good. Right, Clerk, are we prepared?
Ready, sir.
Okay, it is 7:32 at this time. We call the City Council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining,
Here.
Germaini,
She's excused.
right. Lamore,
Here.
Felder,
Here.
Whitman,
Here,
Michelangelo,
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here, if we'd have the invocation, please, and then follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
We have faith and hope in each other and our form of government. We ask for your guidance in the decisions that are made here. We ask you to work for the welfare of this community and all of its residents.
Thank you. Pastor, please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and
and to the republic
For which it stands,
one
one nation, under
under
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Very good, thank you. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item are any amendments to the agenda.
Your Honor, I think we need to remove items 2804 and 2862 from the agenda until the October 19th meeting.
From the council action items, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And I'll
So,
make that motion that we remove items 2804, 2862 until the October 19th city council meeting.
Support.
okay,
Your Honor, if I may offer one language item, if we could just refer to that specifically as postponing those items, the second reading and the council action to that time, that would be preferred for, I'll say, procedural reasons.
Now, for procedural reasons, I'll reframe my motion that items 2804, 2862 be postponed until the October 19th city council meeting.
I re-support that.
okay, so there's a motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Lamore. As stated, the two items on the council action be postponed until the October 19th meeting. Any final comments from council? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
yes,
Michelangelo,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item are citizen comments not related to an agenda item, and I have two items which I believe are not related to agenda items to read into the record.
Okay, would you like to start with those, and then you can check and see if there's those that are on listening that may wish to make public comment not related to an agenda item.
Sure. And at the moment, we have no hands raised. Just
If
so
you
you
would
know.
read your items, that'd be wonderful.
Katie Beth Davis, 15277 La Pleasance Road. I was able to review presentations and plans for the bike loop via Monroe City Council meeting and in person at the Monroe Charter Township meeting last week. I did notice and address the fact that there were only a little over 200 people who came out in support of this bike loop when the population of Monroe County is over 19,000. This bike loop will affect a lot more than 200 people, and I would urge the city to review and maintain all of the road, sidewalks, and maintenance on what we already have. The fact is, it only took 200 people to get something installed that will be costing us a big chunk of money, even with the MDOT grant. But yet a petition with almost 15,000 people in our county who want the Custer statue relocated is only able to get a slow-moving compromise. It has really become apparent the city and its council members have a hard time listening or caring about the needs of its residents. I would also like to encourage the city council members to go on the Monroe News Facebook post about the bike loop and actually read the comments of concerned citizens. And then what follows are a set of comments from Facebook that were attached to this letter. And I'm going to make all of those available. I'll make this letter and those comments available to city council after the meeting yet this evening. So that was from Katie Beth. And then the next is from Brendan Vamplew of 1028 North Telegraph Road. I'd like to express my concerns to you as a citizen of Monroe. I've seen the proposal for the bike loop trail. I believe that money can be used for other things such as public safety. There are numerous tree branches covering high voltage power lines. I've personally seen 2 electrical incidents within the past 3 months that could have been prevented had the trees been trimmed. This is very concerning to me as I know the city of Monroe is already pressed for money regarding tree trimming, as I've seen in the city's budget plan. If you could possibly bring this up to city council and keep me informed, I would greatly appreciate it. And again, that was Brandon Vamplew, 1028 North Telegraph Road. Your Honor.
Thank you. And I'll just have you advise if there's others that may have come into the meeting to make public comment.
No one else has raised their hand, Your Honor.
Okay, at this point, we'll move forward to the next item.
The next item is under communications, item 2858, Halloween Trick or Treat Night, October 31st, 2020.
Thank you. So we have a communication. It comes as a form of a proclamation that is done annually through the city. We do this, and of course, the townships adjoining us also look to establish a night of Halloween trick or treat. And it is scheduled for October 31st from 6:30 to 8 p.m. That is the proclamation that's before the council. And then they'll look for council's action to accept. I think there's obviously in this time of COVID, I'm just going to make a couple of my comments or maybe other comments from those on council as well. This is simply establishing that this is if a family and if members of the community wish to participate, this is when the time would be. I would hope that all the safety precautions will be put in place in this time when you talk about protecting yourselves, protecting others. I'm sure that many of the youth will be wearing masks because it is Halloween, but yet appropriate masks, and we also social distancing. And with that, if you choose and the families choose to do that, there may not be the same participation or maybe the same from the residents. And we should honor all those that choose how they wish to participate or not in this. That's just my comment. I'll leave it to the council, see if there's any other comments, but also this is a communication and I'm looking for, I think it's a motion to accept it is the communication, if correct. Is that right, Mr. Buds? For the proclamation?
That would be correct.
Okay. I'll see
Your Honor.
Councilman Moore.
Yes, I make a motion that we accept the communication as presented.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Whitman to accept that. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Elder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is 2880 Kathleen Lamaco Day, October 15, 2020.
Thank you. I think I'm going to review this because I think council will know who Kathleen Lamaco is as the director of the SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, and her tenure of 42 years of service and is retiring. And this is a recognition for not only what she's done in Southeast Michigan, and it speaks to her career presiding over the Metropolitan Affairs Coalition. She was appointed to many local and state boards. She received the recognition from the governor's appointment to the Environmental Work Group, the Michigan Infrastructure Council, National Association of Regional Council as the chair of the executive directors. She's held many leadership positions. So we talk about this at our work session and talk about the, when we do and how we recognize persons. And I can tell you, Kathleen has been a strong supporter of the Monroe region as well as the city of Monroe. We have benefited from grants through SEMCOG and support from SEMCOG on many, not just funding, but educational programs, staff, even I think it just received here in the past week, more of the items for safe bike and safe ride, safe walk, items that are produced with a good message. I know from a water and wastewater and environmentally, her as well as the new executive director potentially have championed this as well. So that's the proclamation of a review. I thought it was important. The council well knows Kathleen Lamacco, I believe, in her career, but this is just recognizing her for her service in government, in relation to government, in service to the city and the region. I'll see if there's any comments. If not, there's John, Councilman Michelangelo, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I would suggest, because of Kathleen's years of service to the region and as a friend of the city of Monroe, that the city council unanimously support the proclamation as a group. So I would make the motion that we accept and place on file the proclamation designating October 15, 2020 as Kathleen Lamacco Day in the city of Monroe.
Support.
There's a motion by Councilman Michelangelo, supported by Councilman Felder, on item 2880, the Kathleen Lamacco Day. And the date is the 15th because that will be her last day. And it's also the day of the General Assembly for SEMCOG. So you'll have an opportunity for some comments that will be provided by many of the leaders to the Southeast. And I agree, Councilman Michelangelo, from the council unanimously. Great service to not only the region, as I said, and all of us. With that, clerk, please call the roll.
Council or clerk's muted.
And
Councilperson Vining,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Nicoangeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
yes. I see there's a hand raised, and I don't know that it was related to the communication or it's related to something else. I'm not sure how that we do that. I know public comment has passed on the first of the meeting, but we will take comment at the close of the meeting. If it's related to the an item that passed, I would be willing to accept it. I think it's Graham Denton.
So you'd like me to,
If he had a comment, regarding the proclamation, yes.
all right. He's in the queue to speak.
Mr. Denton, did you have a comment regarding the communication and proclamation?
No, I apologize. This was for the bike path. I can wait.
Okay, yeah, we'll have a public comment toward the end of the meeting as well. I appreciate listening, and we'll get to that. Thank you. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is public hearings. Item 2884, public hearing proposed zoning ordinance 20-003, a public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance 20-003. And there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing on item 2884, proposed zoning ordinance 20-003. We'll see if there's any comments from those that are attending.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, I do not either. Even any comments from council or council from those that are attending. Second chance. Seeing none, from our work session and discussion, this topic, as we heard earlier on the amendment to the agenda that was motioned in second, those items were being postponed. In this case, we are not going to adjourn, I'm sorry, not going to close the public hearing. We're going to adjourn the public hearing that will then continue as we reconvene on this topic matter on October 19th. So this, I'm looking at Mr. Buzz before he says yes. Okay, if there's no other comments, we have none. Oh, Councilman Michelangelo.
Your Honor, just a clarification from the attorney. Do we want to use the term adjourn, or do we want to use the term continue the public hearing until October 19th?
Oh, thank you.
Yep, I did note that I think the mayor's comment was to adjourn and to continue, and since I heard the words continue, I was comfortable with that. But yes, the appropriate term is continue, since
Okay.
that will refer to that as a continued hearing on October 19th.
And I will restate that. Thank you, Councilman, that we will continue the public hearing at the October 19th City Council meeting. Any other comments? Okay, very well. We'll continue on the 19th. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 2885, public hearing for proposed ordinance 20-006, an ordinance to establish a new chapter signage to the code of the city of Monroe. Public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance 20-006, and there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Thank you. This time we'll open the public hearing on item 2885, the proposed public hearing on proposed ordinance 20-006 regarding signage. See, I'll ask if there's any comments on the public that are with us this evening. Any public comments? I see no hands raised. I'll confirm with the clerk.
I see nothing either, Your Honor.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we had items that were under the council action that were postponed. This particular one does not require that there be a continued discussion. It's a different matter. So at this time, if there's no public comment, I will close the public hearing at this time. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is under council action, and it's item 2882, 2020 street tree purchase.
Thank you. I see Mr. Lewis is here. Mr. Pastu, comments from yourself, or we'll see if there's questions first.
I'll let Mr. Lewis handle the introduction to this request.
Very good. Mr. Lewis.
Okay, Honorable Mayor and Council, Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services. I won't give you too long of a run up on this because we did talk about this item to some degree at the work session at the last meeting. But this is a request, as I indicated, for tree purchase for this year's fall planting program. We've got a total number of 246, although I did ask for a little bit of flexibility because we do end up having a few that will roll in. Usually if we cut down a tree between now and the end of the planting season, we usually like to have a few more that we can purchase. What we did was the forestry supervisor has 3 nurseries that we've worked with in the past that have a wide variety of different sizes and species. And I've given you kind of a matrix in here. I'm going to scroll down on my own screen. So if it looks like I'm not looking at you, that's what I'm trying to pull up here. But there were 3 different nurseries on there. The rows that we've highlighted in yellow are the ones that we've chosen to go with. And you'll notice the other rows are ones where we solicited pricing, but for one reason or another, we didn't go with those. We are generally trying to get the bigger species when we can. You will note there's a couple of instances where we did not go with the bigger of the species that we had on there, and that was partly because the forester has gone to look at these at the 3 nurseries and wasn't terribly impressed with the larger specimens they have. So it's a combination of what's available and what he's comfortable with planting on there. But you will see quite a few in the 2 to 2.5 inch. There's some 3 inches in there. And in my narrative, I did describe some of the locations that we're using the bigger size trees there. We had discussion before about Harrison Street, and that was one of the larger project areas. Again, we looked at that with our street program this year, and we found there were some holes in there, about 15 that we need to fill. We did have some conversations offline from the council meeting on West 8th Street, and there's a couple blocks in there where the county drain commissioner's office had come through a number of years ago with a project for a large diameter storm sewer where some were removed. This is actually the second planting. We put some smaller ones in there before, and those just didn't make it. They weren't watered. And then one of the other larger streets, mostly because it's a fairly long street, but we also have quite a few holes, and that's on Michigan Avenue. We've got 28 of those. Specifically, we talked about where we had a large number in one place coming out using a larger caliper. And so on the Harrison Street project, we've got New Horizon elms of 3-inch caliber that we're using on the Harrison Street location. So the other thing to note, and I'll probably leave it there from the background, the other item of note is this year, as was the case last year, we did not budget enough money for the specimens in the sizes we'd like to have. So we are requesting a transfer of $16,000 from the general fund contingencies into the forestry operating supplies budget. That'll still leave us with a little bit of money, a little under $5,000 to finish out the year, which of course doesn't end until June. So I think I'll leave it there and see if, in case there's any questions, but that's sort of an overview. As we mentioned at the work session before, we are certainly looking towards putting together a more detailed policy, but we certainly want to get these purchased this year. Even absent that policy, we tried to get the largest size we could in samples that we at least were comfortable with upon inspection by the city forester. So I'll leave it there for now, Your Honor, but be happy to answer any questions council may have.
I see you, Councilman Michelangelo, you have your hand raised, and then Councilman Lamore if it's a comment, and then if not, then motions. We'll see.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to make a suggestion to council. This is part and parcel of our discussion 2 weeks ago at our workshop about having a formal guidelines for what we're going to do within our street right-of-ways relative to street plantings. And my suggestion is that we reject these bids, and we've been fairly successful at the council level of having working committees with the city administration. And we put together a committee that's going to take a look at the street right-of-ways in terms of the tree plantings, signage, striping, and as important, pedestrian crossings, and actually have a plan in place by the first of the year. And then based on that plan, then move ahead with bidding, going out for bids for the trees for a late spring planting. And this is all within the same fiscal year, so it's within the same budget. But instead of going through this and then doing the plan, let's just delay the planting for the fall. Let's do the plan, and then let's do the planting based on the new policy and guidelines. So I'd rather get the horse in front of the cart than behind it. So that's my suggestion if council wants to go along with it.
Councilman Lamore, you had your hand up. Is it a comment?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. In notice of what Councilman Michelangelo was putting in front of us here, is it make it more difficult to purchase these plants in the springtime, Pat? Just asking that question. And if so, the plants that the trees that you're planning on purchasing at this moment, are they going to fit the bill for what Councilman Michelangelo was suggesting to us as far as trying to put a plan together for each streetscape?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll answer the question there. The concern that's been raised in the past is that the fall planting usually is a better planting, because if you get a summer like we had without a lot of rain, and if it was a warmer, hotter summer, you have a lot more mortality on some of these, and particularly the larger the trees. And I've made this, and this again, this is not me, the city engineer, talking. This is me acting through my forester, who's providing me the professional expertise on this. Is that the larger diameter trees you have, usually the more roots you have to cut in order to get them in the planting spaces that we generally have in our right-of-way. As much as we might like to have 15 and 20 foot terraces, we just don't have those. And so to get enough room to plant these, we have to cut more of the roots, and that involves a lot greater degree of watering effort. We try to get cooperation from the homeowners to help us with that. And I'm not saying we can't bring people on to water, but that's an additional expense. And so that's the concern we have with a spring plant. In the last 5 to 10 years, we've had more success with the fall plant than we have with the spring. The second question on the availability of the trees is a concern that our forester raised with me after our work session last week or 2 weeks ago. And that is that some of the larger specimens, the longer they grow in the fields, you know, to get them to grow as large as possible means you're digging them out as late in the fall as possible. And that usually shrinks the available window we have to plant them in November. So I would presume, and again, I'm not the person going to these nurseries, but I would presume the challenge with a spring plant would be what you'd be left with was either a higher degree of difficulty finding the sizes we're looking for because they haven't been growing as long in the fields, or you're getting leftovers from the previous season, which tend to be the lower quality species. Otherwise, they'd have already been purchased the previous fall. It's not a blanket statement. I'm not trying to warranty that that's the only thing, the only possible outcome, but those are the concerns that are raised by staff. And that's why we have gravitated towards a fall planting. So I'll leave it there for now, but I'm sure there'll be some follow-ups.
Councilman Ward, do you have a follow-up question?
I do, not a question, but more concurring with what Patrick's saying, is that you guys planted a tree right in front of my home years ago, and I believe it was in the spring, and it died. And I watered that thing like hell, and it still, I couldn't keep it alive. So I agree with you that springtime is a rough time to bring a tree into the foliage as far as putting it out there. So would it be prudent to say maybe we either pass on this fall season and wait till next fall season and wait till we make a decision as to how we want to put these trees? Because like I said, I agree with Patrick that it is very difficult to plant trees in the springtime and have them survive.
Councilman Michelangelo, do you have a follow-up? Your hand's raised, I see.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I'll just give you a counterpoint to what Patrick said. The city, at least I'm aware, the city forester, at least in the past, has never gone out in the spring and tagged trees for fall planting. So what we end up getting when we do this bidding is we're basically getting the remnants of the trees in the nurseries that have already been picked over by the other communities that go out in the spring and they tag the trees. Because a lot of communities go out, or their contractors go out, they tag the trees, which means that no one else can take that tree. And so if you don't tag them, then what you're getting in the nursery are the remnants of the ones that have been pretty much, you're getting the trees that have been picked, you're getting the result of those that have been picked over. So I kind of disagree with Patrick on that issue. The only other thing that I can suggest is that we only award the trees that are over 2.5 inches, and all the smaller ones, we wait until we have a street plan. Because I just always think that we talk about an issue, we always put the cart before the horse, and then we look back saying, why did we do that? So that's kind of where I'm going with this.
I'll make some comments, and as your last comment there, looking at the size trees, I'm quickly going down the list, and I haven't got through them all yet. There are one that I see that's only listed as 1.5 to 1.75. The others are either at 2 or over, or 1.75 to 2. So those could be under or over. I'm not going to try to figure out what it is on that. So I think about the construction work. I think about Harrison in particular, and the number of trees aren't going there, as well as the number that are going to Michigan Avenue. I would think there would have been some discussion, I hope, between with our forester of the type of trees that we're doing. May not be what a committee may decide, but at least from our expert that we have on staff of those plantings on those 2 streets is in large amounts. When I look through the list, there's one on West 6. I don't know whether that matches to what's there or not. There's a couple here and there. There's many one street locations, but it does have the addresses. Hollywood has I don't know, several here as well, probably about 8 or 9. And I know that we did that work on Hollywood. So I guess the question I have is, we don't plant and then we wait through the season, and then we wait in spring to get them, then we don't plant till fall. Are we going to be, there'll be questions that we'll have and the reasons why. I think the idea that we've talked about and Councilman Michelangelo raised regarding and maybe it's through a committee, maybe it's through the process. I think that is what we talked about at the last meeting. I'm really not looking, I guess I'm looking to approve to get plantings done. I understand the concern that Councilman has, and I understand And I would not want to wait until next fall. We're trying to keep up with what it is and the 246 trees that are here and the 219 we planted last year. I do like consistency. I do like a plan. I do like to have an idea of what that might be, but that's my comments at this point. John, you have a follow-up, and then I'll see if there's other council members that have any.
I don't want to beat this to death, Your Honor, but the appropriate procedure would be that, for example, we knew that based on the capital improvements, we were going to completely reconstruct Harrison Street. And we knew that in last February. The procedure should have been that when the plans were done for the street before, when it was bid out, that we should have estimated the trees that we were going to plant on Harrison. And at that time, the forester should have went out into the nursery and tagged the best specimen trees and let them grow through the summer. And then when the fall planting comes, those are harvested and put into our street construction projects. So I guess where I'm coming from is we bid the street project, we bid the trees out at the end of summer, and we're getting kind of the leftovers on the nursery rather than tag the ones at the beginning that we know that we're going to need to plant. It's the same issue that came up on the North Monroe Street streetscape in front of the public house in Stephanie's. We knew 9 months in advance we were going to do that streetscape. But yet when it came to planting the trees, they weren't tagged ahead of time. And then the contractor couldn't find the trees that were spec'd out by the consulting firm that did the design, so that we just ended up with whatever we could get and we put them in the street and they don't look right. Okay? The trees that should have been planted in that streetscape should have been 3-inch trees, not 1.5-inch trees. So this is the issue that we keep having. So, you know, council can go where it wants. I'm saying that as 2 weeks ago during our workshop, there wasn't a whole lot of us that were satisfied with planting these 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 1.75-inch trees. They just don't look right, and a lot of them don't survive. If we want to plant the larger ones, that's fine. If we just want to award the bid on completing Harrison Street, I guess I'm okay with that. But again, this is just putting the cart before the horse again, and I just don't think we're going to end up with a quality product, in my opinion.
Your Honor, could I address some of the smaller diameter trees that are on here too?
Sure, and then I want to see if there's other comments from council following that.
What I wanted to say about the smaller diameter trees is those are not necessarily cop-outs. Those are locations like Hollywood, for example, where we only have 4 feet between the curb and the sidewalk. Michigan Avenue is the same type of situation. We have a lot of places where we have wires. Michigan Avenue is only a 50-foot right-of-way for its whole length. So we just don't have room to put some of the larger trees in some of these areas. It's not that we're just ignoring that. There are certain practical limitations that we have. So I don't want everyone to think that I'm just bringing you a menu option where we've only got half of the 2.5 or 3-inch caliber trees. There's a good justified reason we're not bringing you those larger trees. I don't recall exactly what was or wasn't tagged in the Monroe Street streetscape project, so I'm not going to go back to 2015 and address that. But I will say this in defense of my staff with the Harrison project. We were told for 2 months non-essential work is not to occur, and the last thing I'm going to do is send a forester out to start tagging trees in March, April, and May with a pandemic. So I will take the arrows for that one if there was a concern about it. But the other challenge with that was in a lot of these locations, we don't know exactly how many we're talking about yet. So you know, if the council wants me to send forester out to start tagging trees and do a better job of doing advanced planning down the road for projects that we know are coming up, that's fine. But we don't even settle the capital projects until a lot of times February. So we'll do the best we can, but I'm not going to make a firm promise here that we can always get that done. I will defend that we weren't able to do that this spring, even if we had wanted to. So I don't mean to be testy about that issue, but I've got to stick up for my staff on that.
Well, I'll see if there's other comments from the council members regarding any input regarding the item that's before us, which is 2882, the 2020 street tree purchase that's before us. Any final comments from council? I see nobody have any further comments. So it is a council action item. It's going to require some form of a motion and a second, and we'll see where we go from there. Councilman Felder?
Is there a motion on the table?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Councilman Lamore, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I'll make a motion, Your Honor. Make a motion that the city council approve the expenditure of up to $39,000 for the purchase of trees for the 2020 fall planning program, that awards be made to Willow Way Nurseries Incorporated, Ray Wiegand's Nursery Incorporated, and North Branch Nursery Incorporated in amounts detailed above, that a transfer of $16,000 be made from general fund contingencies into the forestry operating supplies budget, and that the Director of Engineering and Public Services or his designee be authorized to enter into any necessary agreements or purchase orders on behalf of the city.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Support.
There's a motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Vining on item 2882, the 2020 tree purchase as presented. No further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echo Angeli,
No.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, well, before we go to the next item, Councilman Michelangeli, there'll be a conversation tomorrow. And I know that while this passes tonight, I think exactly what you presented is what we will be looking toward and how we can make that work. I appreciate the comments. I really do. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $1,261,137.72, 1261137.72.
Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? There are 3 items. Any items to be pulled for further discussion? I see no hands raised. I see no nods. With that, motion will be in order.
Your Honor,
Councilman Felder?
I move that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, and the recommendations carried out.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, and carried out. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Echo Angeli,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
I have no further items, Your Honor.
So next we have council comments. Councilwoman Vining, it is September. Your comments, please.
Yes, I just wanted to talk about how exciting it is to see the Labor Park project moving along, and all the other projects that are going on around the city. It's always good when you can see tangible results of all the work that we've put in. So it's really exciting. That's all I have for tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Lamore.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I'd like to say big thank you to the Opportunity Center and the MCOP for their presentation they put forth at the work session. I thought it was wonderfully done and well thought out, and can't say enough about how it's made me feel a lot better about our decision that we made in council to have them head up the Opportunity Center. So thank you to them for their great effort there. Secondly, a note that disturbs me quite a bit here. A person on social media that not only criticized a city home of its political signage in a profane way, but also mentioned something about their adopted children and their race. This person is currently running for a position in Monroe Township as a trustee. Please let it be known that and I'm sure I can speak for the rest of the city council, do not condone this type of behavior. And I consider it to be a form of bullying, very much a form of racism and bordering on a hate crime. I know that anything can be said on social media, but it does not mean it has to be tolerated. It is my hope that these people can be prosecuted in the future. But until then, I hope that Monroe Township citizens can view one of their candidates and how they behave. I don't know how else to put forward this, because social media comments are tolerated too much. And this can't be tolerated. When it comes to somebody's children at their home, this is intolerable, and it's an act that cannot be condoned by anyone. So I hope that these people see these people and what they do, and hopefully the vote will go that way as well. That's all the comment I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Felder.
Your Honor. Let me check my notes here. Regarding Halloween, I certainly hope that everyone who chooses to participate does so in a safe manner. And of course, anyone can opt out just simply by turning off their light and shutting their door. I do hope this allows us a certain opportunity to get creative in how we participate in the holiday and how we give out candy, specifically, whether that means incorporating masks into costumes or handing out candy from a distance. I know I've seen people leaving candy on the porch and simply going inside, or sliding it down a tube attached to the railing. You can get sort of neat with this. I hope we explore some of those options. It'll be fun to see what people come up with. Regarding Councilman Icoangeli's point, I certainly think it's fair. Whenever we're dealing with trees, that's going to be an impact that affects the community and the feel and look of a community for decades to come. And having a plan about how you're going to go about it, given the length and duration of the decisions that you're going to make, I think is certainly reasonable. And that's a conversation that needs to happen in the future. We can't forget about that. There seemed to be, in some of the comments we received from the public at the beginning of the meeting, some confusion about what was going on in the county loop trail. I just want to clarify for myself, as much as anything else, what indeed took place. I think that, well, let me back up. Last meeting, council passed a resolution of support for the county's application to the TAP grant. We didn't spend a dime in that resolutions. Resolutions can't spend any money. I'm wondering, I believe that it's not going to be any money expended, or if any, it'll be very small in the construction and additional maintenance for city residents. Would I be correct in assuming that, Vince?
Through the mayor, make sure I'm on my.
You are
okay,
good.
Yeah. That you know, it was just a resolution of support, and the portion within the city is very small in relationship to the overall project. The one area, I think, even though I was absent at that meeting on the 8th, was the inclusion of potentially extending from its termination with this grant toward the downtown area. That would also require some, you know, local match funding from that. But the immediate application that was submitted was a very small portion within the city, and candidly, our local match would pretty nominal in the $2.5 million that they were looking at.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, how I saw this is the local match being very small. You're leveraging that against a much larger pot of money that you're being able to invest in your community, and that's coming from what I believe to be Public Act 51 money or a SEMCOG grant that specifically needs to be used for transportation. So it's not like they could use this money for something else. The county might be expending money, but the city's portion of that is incredibly small. The additional maintenance is going to be incredibly small. Most of the city's participation in the loop plan is pre-existing sidewalks. Monroe City residents already paid for these decades ago. We've already been participating because we've already laid the framework by which this plan can exist. Half of the Monroe County Loop Plan takes place in the city of Monroe because that's where the infrastructure already is. It's not where they need to build anything. So I suppose we're going to be maintaining half half of the county loop trail, and that we're going to be continuing to maintain city sidewalks, but that's no additional cost to residents. I just want to make sure that we're clear that this isn't really spending any additional money or very nominal sums of money. And the Public Act 51 monies, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vince or Mr. Mayor, but those have to be spent on particular projects. We can't just spend those at our discretion. And those, I believe, come from the county. That's not from us.
Yeah, some non-motorized improvements that could be spent toward those. So, yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And then finally, there was a question about the trimming of city trees for power lines. Is that the city forester's responsibility, or is that DTE's responsibility?
DTE and ITC, which both have distribution and transmission lines, have pretty extensive requirements as it applies to the to Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, as it's referred to. So they are responsible for that maintenance.
That was my understanding as well. Thank you for confirming, sir. That's all I have for this evening.
Councilwoman Whitman.
Yes, sir. I agree with Kelly. I've been driving past Labor Park and I am very proud of the work that's being done down there, and can't wait to see it when it's finished. And I also agree about Halloween. I hope everyone practices safe, rules for the virus and take into consideration, let alone it's Halloween. We have to keep our children safe anyway. And Mr. Mayor, I have not had a chance to talk to you, but I was wondering about the lavatories at the parks. What was the outcome with that?
I'll look to Mr. Pastor. I know from administration and staff use. I may have my comment on those because they've been shuttered through the summer because of the reasons we all know. And actually, we're coming to the close of the season. But Mr. Pastor?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I did talk with Loretta a little bit about it. My sense of it as well is that we're near the end of the season. Again, normally we have seasonal personnel to assist with our full-time personnel related to all of the parks maintenance. And at this point, since we didn't fill any seasonal work, we didn't, obviously had them closed during that period, but we are just a few weeks away from closing them down as well. So again, part of the concern, when we closed it initially was, look, it is an enclosed environment. There can be means by which, particulates are still airborne when someone comes in afterwards, if the preceding person was by chance, having the COVID-19. So it's one of those, that was a rationale for doing it, could still be airborne, but as we come to the end of the season, we just, we can open it up, but for what, for 2 or 3 weeks? I mean, obviously we've seen the weather change already.
Okay, I will pass that along.
Yep,
Thank you. That's all that I have.
Thank you. Councilman Michelangelo.
Thanks, Your Honor. I just wanted a couple things. First, it looks like the light conversion downtown's going well, and it really does look exceptional. Thank the DDA for that and the city administration. Wanted to get an update from Vince and from the city attorney on what's going on with the favorite house, my favorite house on the corner of 3rd and Harrison Street.
They're pausing, so I know the house regarding the fire. So
you're taking a deep breath.
Or Mr. Buds have comments. Status.
Your Honor, if you want me to proceed, I will, or if Vince has more to add, he can.
Right.
So notice was given to the property owner in order to go through our process of the demolition. We have asked for a Construction Board of Appeals hearing to be scheduled. I am working with the building department on that. We'll follow up again. It was a matter of getting the Construction Board of Appeals members available at a time when they could all be together to potentially have a hearing as far as that matter goes. And we're hoping to move that forward as expeditiously as possible once that is set and moving forward.
Any idea of time frame?
I was cautiously optimistic that that would be late October. What I need to do is just make sure it's a date that has gives me at least time for 21 days notice for that notice of that hearing to go out to the property owner. So still optimistic late October or early November.
What about the property that's adjacent to it where the siding has been burned?
That I have not been actively involved in, but in my follow-up with the building department, I will ask if they have knowledge on that front as well.
That, if I may, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Pestu.
The adjoining property owner, was my understanding that they did have homeowners insurance, and certainly, would have the funds for replacing that. But we'll follow up with the building department. A lot of times though, they'll subrogate a claim like that, and if this individual didn't have any insurance, it may end up going directly to the individual property owner for that responsibility. So, but we'll follow up on both of those items.
Okay, the next item I have is, I noticed last weekend there was activity at the former Bolidrome building over on South Telegraph. And it appeared that somebody had a sign out saying move in or move out. And that building is, in my opinion, should be subject to demolition as well. So I wanted to know if the building department had any knowledge of what was happening with that structure.
I'm sure Mr.
Green, do you want to, Jeff? I know we chatted briefly about it in the past, the recent past.
Yeah, what it looks like is they've been doing some outdoor sales in the parking lot. We have had the building department go over. One of the issues was just some blight and some materials that were left around the parking lot. They did clean those up, but we haven't been able to get with them on what it is they're doing and doing this on a long-term basis. And it seems to be picking up. It was on a Saturday early on on our weekend, and then it was Saturday and Sunday type of thing, and then it was becoming more. So we are trying to follow back up with them.
Is there any reason why we shouldn't be investigating that building as a dangerous building?
Well, I can make some comment because Councilman Michelangelo, I know that I've shared your concerns that you're raising this evening. We've had some opportunities to ask the building officials and the city to look into this. My first thing was exactly, I saw the things that were outside in the lot being sold. Is it zoned for that activity? And then I saw that the doors were open, and then I saw a sign one day that said, clothing inside. So those have been reported, and I know the building official, the planning, our administration's following up, because is there a certificate of occupancy? Has it been inspected? Is it up to where it should be to make sure that there's some form of activity, especially if people are going inside? I'm not saying they're doing that now, but I know about 3 or so weeks ago they were. And then it moves into almost like a week-long garage sale on an open lot. And they did clean it up because a blight notice was submitted for that originally. They moved the items inside, but now it appears that they're moving them in and out. So your observations are correct. And all the items that you've raised and I've raised, I think, is what we have to make a determination on, and with the owner, and who's conducting a business, and what is that business? Does it meet the location which it's allowable? So I agree with you, Councilman Michelangelo, that it needs to be addressed.
Okay. Lastly, Your Honor, I think I'll take your suggestion up. I'll talk to you and the manager about seeing what kind of committee we can put together on the street program, because I just want to ensure that we don't continue with our past practices. And then last, I guess it's just a general comment. I appreciate that people that our residents kind of have singular issues that they want us to focus on, like, for example, the Custer statue. But, local government isn't about single issues. Local government is about advancing multiple issues that benefit the community and leveraging opportunities. I mean, example is the Monroe Loop, the county loop program for the bicycle trail. Public safety is an issue. The Custer statue is an issue. Opening the parks is an issue. So local government isn't about single issues. It's about multiple issues. And we're not doing our job if we're not trying to leverage opportunities for the community in the way of trying to position ourselves for state and federal grants. Because if we don't get them, somebody else is. So that's kind of a general comment that I have. Being on council is, I don't really want to be a single issue council. We have to be a little bit more diverse than that in terms of how we approach the quality of life in the community. So that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mikelangi. I had one comment. Now I've added a couple since the conversation. So I think I'll just kind of go through it. So oddly, my first was actually compliments for the forestry from our conversation today. And that was because the event that was held over the weekend with the Relief Michigan and grant funding to plant trees along East Elm leading into the Heritage Trail. So another quality of life item of planting trees all the way along. I was very pleased with Tony Abbott, our forester, as well as all the city employees that were there and helping prepare the site, but also helping there was over 40 some volunteers that were there. And if you saw the article, the one group came down and I was talking to them and I just said, well, how did you hear or where are you from? And they were from Sterling Heights and came to Monroe because they saw the value of planting trees in the community. And one was a student in Ann Arbor, as well as some family members. And so it was encouraging to see. And it was a good morning and I thank the volunteers. The Relief Michigan, as well as the DTE Foundation, funded that, and as well as our staff being there. And there's some educational opportunities, as well as our forester talked about planting an appropriate way to plant a tree for those that were, and everybody was attentive and listening. Councilman Lamore mentioned the MCOP annual report. I look forward to the upcoming fiscal year with that. They have many ideas, plans, things might be as occurred in many of our realms of working with COVID. They still were managed to move and progress forward with items. So good conversation. If you did not attend into the work session, opportunities to go back and watch that on YouTube and see the great work that's been done and the great work that's being planned in the conversation to see that the Opportunity Center at the ALCC moving forward. And additional conversation about the community gardens and plans for the future. On the county loop, Councilman Mikelangi said that was my thought as well. We look at it and say, well, why would we participate? It's not in the city. I think it's looking at it in that dimension. We'll have to get back and find out what that is. We don't have a number because we don't know what grants are going to be approved. And in the committee that was meeting on that, if there's certain grants that don't come through, it's just not going to be feasible to fund without those. And if it is move forward and in the segments, there's 4 different segments, it's not all going to get done at once. Monroe residents will also be the users and benefactors, and it requires partnerships to get it done. Councilman Felder, you're right. What that means is what will be in the details as it moves forward. But there is sharing in many aspects, and some is in partnership, some is in cost, and we'll see as we move forward. And as the grant gets submitted to SEMCOG, and with MDOT's hopefully and others inclusion. Mentioned about the blight and stuff, and Councilman Mikelangi, I think it's easy to look at one item. I think it was brought by other council members. There's funding that can be used for certain reasons, and you can't just shift it over to something else. You learn that, and when you have multiple topics that you have to juggle as serving on a council, and how the funding comes, where it comes from, and how it can be spent. And there's others that are discretionary funds that we can do. I think Councilman Felder brought that up well. So I'll stop there and move forward. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, I know that a lot and much happening and daily new things come through regarding elections and ballots. And I know hopefully you'll have an update for us as well. Thank you.
So I do. There are a few things that I'm not going to talk about yet tonight because there's some court cases that may be following some recent court decisions that will impact the election potentially. So that was probably pretty obtuse, but anyway, I'll get into it when we need to. But right now, what is in front of us for certain is that ballots have arrived in our office. And we are in the process of preparing the mailing, and they will be going out this week. As soon as they are done, they will be taken to the city post office and mailed. And the post office, again, last election was really good about keeping those within the city. So I would imagine the voters should by the weekend, very beginning of next week, start to see ballots coming to their door. So that's where our full concentration is right now. And if anybody has any questions or isn't sure if they've requested a ballot or have changed their mind about requesting a ballot, they just need to give the clerk's office a call and we'll take care of them. And that's all I have, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Pastu, comments this evening.
Your Honor, I just have one item, and I'm going to have Mr. Lewis give an update regarding the leaf bag program.
Okay, thank you.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services again. I'll say it's the most wonderful time of the year and it's leaf raking season. So we should be a press release on the city's website. We will start the distribution of leaf bags at the Department of Public Services facility. We're going to start with 2 Saturdays in October. So the first day will be the 3rd of October, and we've also got the 10th of October. Saturdays will be 8 to noon. And then we're going to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting the week following, and more than likely continuing all the way through the end of October on those days. So the first 3 weekdays will be the 6th, 7th, and 8th, followed by, of course, the 13th, 14th, 15th, and so on. The afternoon hours will be 2:30 to 5:30. And it'll be just like the last few years where you can pull in. We'll have the forestry section right in the front open. You can drive in. We'll look at your ID or some type of utility bill, and we'll load them right in your car for you. So there won't be any concerns about social distancing. Our staff will have masks on, and you don't even have to leave your car. So we're going to do like we did before, limit those to 50 bags per household. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Patrick.
Patrick.
Mr. Pastor, anything further?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll look to Clerk Lavoie. I know that Graham Denton was on earlier and had a comment about I think the loot trail. They see there's a couple of hands raised. I don't see who they are. So we probably should start with Graham if he's one, since he was on early and wanting to speak.
So Graham doesn't have his hand raised, but I will move him into I will move Graham into the queue.
Okay, and see if he wants to come.
So there we go.
Mr. Denton, are you with us, and would you like to make comments this evening? I see 3 hands raised now, but I don't hear from Graham.
So I can move Graham back into the attendee room, and if Graham wishes to speak, he can just raise his hand.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Cole Bean has had a hand raised for a while now, so I will move Cole in.
Okay, Cole, and as we get ready before you start, just as we've talked about before, rules of the chamber that, mindful of all those time that wish to speak, 3 minutes, and look forward to your comments. Cole, comments, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. I live in 48162. My pronouns are they, them.
That works.
I did want to make a quick comment in regards to Michelangeli's comment. I think it's worth mentioning that the person who brought up the Custer statue is also the person who brought up the bike trail today. I do think that a lot of us have a lot of issues that we're concerned about. We really do care about Monroe and want to make it better in a lot of different ways. But my main comment is going to be in regards to the issue that Councilwoman Lamore brought up earlier about social media comments. I just want to clarify that the comments were made expressing concerns for the children because the household is pro-Trump and they're non-white children living there, which is why the race thing came up. I just think that a lot of our community does feel like the current president is quite divisive and dangerous for a lot of America's Black and brown communities. And so I don't think that raising concerns over child's well-being is a hate crime. I can understand how some people may feel uncomfortable about comments being made about their family or their children, but I definitely wouldn't call it a hate crime. And I think more to the point, it's extremely dangerous, in my opinion, for a council member to uplift the voice of a community member who suggested prosecuting a fellow American citizen for voicing their opinion in not only just like in general, in public, but also in private. I just feel that this is America and we all have a right to express our opinions for or against our government without worrying about being arrested or charged, unless there's an active threat that's being posed or carried out. So I do think that's kind of a dangerous line of thought to be going down. Before this came up, I was actually going to mention, I've seen a lot of people posting online that their Biden and Democratic signs have been getting stolen out of people's lawns. As far as I know, no one's been really reporting this to the police. They've just been kind of replacing their signs. That sort of voter suppression is an actual crime. So I hope that people are able to kind of pay attention to that if that keeps happening, that they're able to report that. So those are just things I wanted to bring up to the council today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. And, you know, I'm just going to follow up before I go to the next comment on signs, because, you know, there is placement of signs that are permissible within people's own property. The right of way between the sidewalk and the curb, that's public property. It is not permissible to put any form of signs there. And we have a challenge in keeping up with that. And it's not just about political signs, it's about signs, whatever they may be. But just so since it was brought up, I thought it was important to kind of reinforce that about signs, and people have the choice to put them in their yards, and people should let people keep their signs in the yard. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
All right. All right. I believe Asia was next, so I'm gonna move Asia into the queue to speak.
Asia, can you hear?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear
All
me?
right, if you would, please, and mindful of 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Asia Hawthorne at 24 Murray Street. I'm just on the edge of downtown Monroe. I wanted to say thank you for everyone for being present tonight and for allowing us to be present as residents. I appreciate everyone's diligence in these difficult times. And I wanted to give something positive. Something positive to say about the city and how much I appreciated all the volunteers and everyone coming out Saturday for the tree planting. I absolutely loved being able to take my 13-year-old son with me. I think it's important to plant seeds, pun intended, of how important it is to care about our community and for us to continue our efforts towards looking out for our community and the earth for future generations. So I just want to say thank you for the relief program, City of Monroe, DTE, as well as Rotary Club Monroe for being present, and Monroe News for covering it. And that's all I have to say this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Asia, and thank you for reminding me about the Rotary Club members that were there, as well as some DTE employees, other organizations that were present. It was a great morning. Clerk Treasurer, other comments?
We have Katie Beth Davis, so I will move Katie Beth into the queue.
Good evening, it's Katie Beth Davis, 15277 La Pleasance Road. And I just wanted to say that it was brought to my attention that the comments that were made by Mr. Lamore regarding my post that I posted on Facebook. Now, the reason why I said what I said, number one, was because when I do drive by and I have stickers on my car, I get flipped off. How you are going to hold a person that's running for office and that's fighting racism and that actually had a hate crime committed on her that was reported by the Monroe Police Department when a man drove by one of our protests and pointed a gun at me. but that's not out yet, but that will be. So nobody's done anything about that hate crime. But the fact that you can hold me to a higher standard than the President of the United States while I'm expressing my First Amendment, the things that come out of his mouth are much worse than anything that you would ever hear from me. So I have done nothing for my community but fight to change it, because we have all been living in a whitewashed version of what everyone thinks is best for everyone. When there's a bike loop that only had 200 people that supported it, I had 14,000 people support this Custer statue getting relocated. And then you guys just want to put a pacifier in and add some history. That's fine. We can already see how this is still continuing to go. And I just know that my fight has just gotten harder. So thank you so much. You guys really inspired me to keep on pushing. And in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the old Monroe is going to go.
Well, I see she's muted, so that's the end. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, other comments that are on?
Graham has raised a hand again, so I will move Graham into the queue. Let me do one thing here.
Okay.
All right, so here comes Graham. Graham is available to speak now.
Graham Denton, 217 West 2nd Street, Monroe, Michigan. I've heard a few comments recently. I just want to also say that while not condoning anything that was said, I see the nature of that, and there was no physical threat made or anything like that. So to insinuate that there was a crime, I would just ask Councilman Moore which crime you refer to. And I would also at this time like to actually condone what is protected by the Constitution and the freedom of speech. And I would hope, Lamore, also that you share the same moral outrage for other elected officials and hopefully contact them with the same. And I don't know, I guess I do appreciate you elevating the concerns of one citizen. I certainly wish that you would hold other moral outrages for other citizens, among other things. I just wanted to ask the council too, if I don't want to comment on rumors, but it was brought up that it was about 200 votes to do the bike loop. And you guys are talking about money as an issue, but the same can be echoed with the 14,000 voices. I'm sure we could find 200 from the county in that. And we've already got the funds to move that thing from multiple people. You could probably end up in the positive from Gettysburg if you moved it. But again, I just wanted to say that, you know, like Katie Beth said, this just does seem a bit like fake moral outrage for political reasons. But again, I hope you prove me wrong. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Graham. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy.
I see no other hands raised, Your Honor.
Seeing no other hands raised. Motion is appropriate.
Motion to adjourn.
Or
motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilman Michelangelo to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining,
Yes.
Wilmore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman.
There are other things that citizens are concerned with.
Hold on.
Graham Denton is still on there. He's
I
muted.
just
Now.
muted
Thank
him.
you.
I just muted him. Whitman, Ikoangeli,
yes.
Paula, Whitman, did I give you a chance to say yes? Sorry. Yes, okay. Mayor Clark.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you for your time.
Everybody later. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.